Hey internet world, my name is Doesn't Matter and we talk about the best designed cards in Hearthstone according to my opinion, which you can disagree with because turns out having an opinion in the internet is usually bad. We will not talk about 10, not 13, but 12. 12 of the best designed cards in Hearthstone because why not? I saw 12, I picked 12, and you can't change it. So, shall we just start? There are a bunch of things in Hearthstone. There are like 2,000, 3,000 cards. We lose count. Most of them are bad. Some of the cards that you have seen in the past, I think all of them in the past actually, they have really good design that they maybe, Team 5 maybe wants to take a look at again and be like, well, we did something good back then. How can we implement that today? And for that, let's look at 12 cards. Also the usual twitch.tv, here are the cards. For spot number 1. Out of 12, there's no order, okay? There's not like the best and the worst card, there's just a bunch of things that are good. Like who said you have to follow any rules? First off, Firefly. It's a 1-drop that basically has no real effect besides giving you another 1/2, which is just good early game. It always saw play in Odd Rogue, in Token Druid, I guess most odd decks. It's still a card that sees play in Wild a lot, just because having a defensive stat line, while at the same time generating a little bit of value for you, helping you out with combos, just in the early game in general. It's great design. It's not broken, but it's good. It's not hard to remove, but it's still stuff on the field. And if you can make good arguments about something, that usually speaks for good design. So that happy little fire-looking guy deserves a spot on this list. Next one, from Rest Against Rumble, one of the worst expansions ever made because the overkill keyword is not good. Mojo Master Zihi. Zihi didn't really see play often. I remember seeing the card in an even Warlock list back when Mechathon was really popular, so one time before people wanted to do their Mechathon combo or before they used Shutterbox or any stupid combo that requires them to have mana, well, you set them back to 5. Z does not do that much, but it's like the kind of interruption effect that is very unique, like Loatheb against spells, Dirty Red against cards in hand, same with Saboteur for spells, and Zihi for mana crystals. But I guess if there's ever a card that needs directly 10 mana for you to use, and that is good and wild, and has a good win rate, and is meta defining, then maybe Zihi comes back again. But so far, Zihi just exists. Next spot, one of my personal favorite cards of all time, Treachery. I used to call this card Treachery, but there's no tree and there's no cherry, it's Treachery. You can use this card in multiple ways, but usually you just select the Doomsayer and give it to the opponent. You give your opponent the D. I like this card so much because it has the unique effect of being like Sylvanas, but you can choose. There are like a few combos you can use this card in. And most notably, you can give your opponent something like an unlicensed Apothecary, and then play Mad Summoner, then deal 30 damage to their face because that's fun. And just having the effect directly to give something on your feet to the opponent is great. Unique design, great epic. I spent 3.2k dust on that because I have that twice in golden. Good investment. Next one, Lord J, the original version of Death Knights. I guess, because they replace your hero and then you have that, yeah. So, he summons 6/6 elementals. And elementals meaning demons that are from the Burning Legion. He drops his Inferno and then they rain down from the sky like fire. And they're green, they're big beefy boys, and most notably, you have a 3/8 weapon by setting your health to half of its original. Like even if you play Reno afterwards, doesn't matter. You are at 15. You could play Amara technically if you happen to do that in Priest and then be a 40 health Jaraxxus, but usually you're down to 15. And being at 15 health against aggressive decks was always a downside. Fun fact, Lord Jaraxxus was actually the very first legendary card I opened when I started playing Hearthstone and I have not used him since. If he would just be 15 health and you can heal back up to 30, he would be a lot better. Like you have a powerful hero power, you have a good weapon, but you die so easily. This power level is, I think, how alternate heroes should be. Zul'jin repeats every single spell, which can be insanely broken. Gul'dan resummons all demons. Frostlit Jaina gives you infinite lifesteal. This is fun, interactive, great. Aradar Lord. Death Knight, little bit too good, even 2 years later. Then we have somebody who is dirty. Red. It's dirty red. So the red itself has this one unique effect that you can read right there. Your opponent has a card in his hand? No, he doesn't. It's on the field. Your opponent plays Mechathon, Shutterbox, any combo piece ever, Vargeth, remove that. You drop your Bran, you drop your rat, you play Zola on the rat, play it again. 4 minions, that many, out of the opponent's hand onto the battlefield. Combo breaker in a card. It's great, it's powerful, it's beautiful, and that's mainly because if your opponent plays some really stupid combo that lasts forever, you can just interrupt that. I think cards like these that can interrupt your opponent are just great for the game. because then you can actually try to play around things in the future. Like I know in Yu-Gi-Oh! There are hand traps, which are just annoying. This is basically a hand trap, but it's still random. If cards like Nosferatu, Dirty Red, or Saboteur had the non-random effect and would just be targeted, would be too good, obviously. Also used to play this with, I think, an even Paladin when you played Call to Arms. So you just had a 2-mana 2/6 taunt. Also, if you played this just against aggressive decks, sometimes you pull their Baku and lose, and sometimes you pull like a 1/1. Then you have a giant taunt minion for 2 mana, which is good stats for the cost. Boy, that rat always made people cry. And other people happy. My favorite giant, Molten Giant. Back in like 2014 or 15, there was this one interesting deck, I would call it. There used to be Freeze Mage as a valid mage deck, there used to be Mech Mage to play aggressive, and there used to be a Giant Echo Mage. You utilized the cards in a smart way, played so wasteful, so you went down to 10 health, you froze the opponent's field, you dropped double Giant into Echo of Medivh, played 2 more Giants, and then did like 32 in damage. Even if you just played 1 or 2 Giants, you usually followed up using Defender of Argus and then you had Giants the opponent couldn't go through, and you could freeze the opponent's board multiple times. It was such a great deck. It was so much fun to play. Some people like Neville's used it to get to rank 1 legend. Was a great deck. And then you can play this card in Even Warlock, you can play it in Holy Wrath OTK Paladin, where you just use Holy Wrath on turn 5, maybe you hit the Giant, deal 20 damage. The card got nerfed and nerfed reworded. It used to be a 20 mana card like it is right now, then it was increased to 25 mana, and then it went down to 20 again. You can play it in Warlock, you can Shadow Flame that. I like that Giant. Next up, there's not a Giant, there's a chess piece. Ivory Night. What a wonderful design of a card. At least back then when Discover was introduced and there wasn't like 500 different spells and outcomes. Like laggies, which we all like. So Ivory Night saw playing exactly one deck, and that is Anything Can Happen Paladin. Murloc Paladin. When you have your double blue guilds, your war leader, your charged man, and then just Anything Can Happen, you drop that 10 mana spell and go in there. You Murgle, kill the opponent. And using Ivory Night, you always have the chance to discover another version of Anything Can Happen. You could discover any board clear, any heal spell. As a 6 mana 4/4, it has more Rabi stats, which is bad, but because it heals you for the card cost, you give your opponent information, but it's still random. Like, this is great design. Maybe make it like, probably like 4 mana right now. Like, if this card would be 4 mana right now, maybe it would see play in pure Paladin. Like, at 6 mana it's too much right now, but still. Back then, when you had time, you used to play this on 6, Curator on 7. Good old memories. Great design, great card from Karazhan, good looking chess piece. Maybe we should bring back Anything Can Happen. In the dungeon I go deeper, Corridor Tar Creeper. 3 mana 1/5 taunt. Probably the first card, or one of the first cards that came to mind when making a list of best design cards. While you just play a Silverback Patriarch plus 1 health, which is good enough already, it's also an elemental, so it has the synergy for the next turns that you would like to play elementals in. And it also has +2 attack during your opponent's turn. Right now we do have this thing, which is basically Tar Creeper but a new, which is +1 health. But the original design of Creeper, of the Tar Creepers, there are like 3 of them. 1 for Warlock, 1 for Warrior, in like middle size and big sized. That was so great. Because you could play a control deck with cards that are actually good for control. You don't want to deal damage in the early game usually. So having this card in your deck means you don't really deal damage, having 1 attack, but you protect. And protect does good. Even though it's very simple, just having an additional effect during your opponent's turn was enough to make this card a staple among control decks. You can still, I guess, see it in certain decks right now. At the time of Tar Creeper is kinda over. I miss that blob of tar. Next, a card that is very debatable on this list, Defile. Fun fact, Defile in Polish looks like this. If you don't speak Polish, which I don't, that looks really complicated. So, is Defile a good card or a broken card? Yes, is my answer for that question that I ask myself in this room by myself. If you like mathematics, and that is counting up to 14, because it stops after 14, you can use Defile and clear the entire board. If you play against the Warlock and you have like 3 minions, and you have a 1, a 2, and a 4 health minion, you know, if you drop your 3 health minion, well, maybe your entire board is gone next turn. If you don't play the 3 health minion, maybe your 4 drop survives. I think the card is great. Like, sometimes your opponent plays like N'Zoth and Void Lords and stuff, and then you can count into 1, 2, 3, and so on, until you get up to like 12 and clear the entire board. It's like the smart version of Godfrey. You can combo that easily using Thanos. I even used to play Tainted Zee a lot. I like that card a lot in Defile, because you have the spell damage effect twice. So it hits like 2, 4, and then 5, 6, 7. This and Patrons goes on 14 times, probably one of my, if not my favorite spell. I think it's good design, because your opponent can play around that, and you can trade your minions so you can set up the fire perfectly. But then for 2 mana it's usually an entire board clear. So if it's good design or broken, you can decide. And let me know. The D is coming. What a weird sentence to say. Doomsayer is next. For the cost of 2 mana, again, you can have a 0/7 minion that either blows up the field, gets a silence out of the opponent's hand, or, most importantly, heals you for at least 7 if your opponent decides to trade into it. That and Treachery, as mentioned earlier, blows up the opponent's board, which is great for you. And just overall, that is perfect flavor, I think. Combo that, you can just drop him normally. He is fairly bad in the late game. You can free stuff, Nova Doom. This is one of the cards that should be in the classic set, I think. It's still a staple in control decks, probably will for a long time. I like that fiery boy. If you ever want to craft an epic card in Golden, probably Doomsayer. And then I realized I don't have 11 cards for the second place, I have 10. So final card, best card of all time, design-wise. Not play-wise, the card is not that good, especially right now, it kinda sucks. But it is Cthulhu, giant eyeball monster. That's for a very simple reason. You build your entire deck around this specific card. At least in most cases. When this guy got announced and it came out, a bunch of people were really happy because this is how a legendary should be. Usually if you play legendary right now, it's like a 5-drop or lower. Like you play aggressive, you have like patches in wild, you have a bunch of prime cards in standard. And they're all not that legendary, they're more like, yeah, I played. But Cthulhu, that is an entire build up. You play a deck, you buff him over the course of the game, and then at some point you drop him. And you get that great effect. You have an entire game plan around one specific card, and most importantly, you can play him in Shadowwalk, and then you have a bunch of eyeballs forever. Whispers of the Old Gods, and having those 4 Old Gods, this is how legendaries should be. High impact, but not completely broken, so you have to actually do something to make them work. Besides Yasharash, he just does stuff. Now I feel like we should have an expansion like that again. Anyways, Cthulhu is the winner. I think Repari made a video about best design cards 1 or 2 years ago as well. And I think he also selected Cthulhu as number 1. Still true to this date. That's my argument. Cthulhu is great. And with that, we had like 11 cards, I think, that I think are very well designed in Hearthstone. There are cards I didn't mention. Because turns out we have like 2,000 plus cards left that I didn't talk about. Which are those cards that I think are well designed that I should have included in my made-up list? You can let me know. Either in the comments or on twitch.tv/ well, I don't know, wanna follow, maybe not. Fun fact that you perhaps not care about. We bet the Ender Dragon, we defeated the Ender Dragon in Minecraft. That's an accomplishment. And you will see that soon on my second channel, which is called Solem 2. But for the end of this video, I would just say, looking back at old stuff, it's always fun. Cthulhu is great. Get some eyeballs and water your plants.